Jennifer, what are some of the biggest engineering opportunities that you see right now in the demolition and environmental services sector?
There's a huge opportunity right now when it comes to sustainability and how we handle deconstruction, material recovery, and environmental remediation. You have to think like we're not just tearing things down anymore. We're managing climate risk, lead abatement, brownfield cleanup, and disaster recovery, all of which require a blend of engineering and regulatory understanding and innovation.
Did you know the U.S. generates over 600 million tons of construction and demolition debris each year, more than double the amount of household waste? Yet demolition remains one of the most overlooked sectors in civil engineering. In this episode, I'm joined by Jennifer Todd, president of LMS General Contractors and founder of A Greener Tomorrow, to talk about the untapped opportunities in demolition and environmental services. We'll dive into how she's driving innovation, addressing workforce shortages, and helping shape a more inclusive and resilient industry. If you're curious about where the future of civil engineering is headed, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and this is the Civil Engineering Podcast, the industry's leading show for civil engineering professionals, ranked as the #1 civil engineering podcast by FeedSpot. All right, now I'd like to welcome our guest onto the show for today. Jennifer Todd is the president of LMS General Contractors and founder of A Greener Tomorrow. Jennifer, welcome to the Civil Engineering Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So we're excited to have you here. Maybe you could start out by telling our audience a little bit about yourself, your career journey, and kind of what led you to establish LMS General Contractors and A Greener Tomorrow.
Sure. So my name is Jennifer Todd, and I was the youngest Black woman in California to obtain a general engineering A license. And so for me, I've built my career at the intersection of civil engineering, demolition, and environmental services. I founded LMS General Contractors 12 years ago now. And really that was to address some of the inefficiencies that I saw in demolition and remediation, especially how we show up for the communities that we serve. And later on, A Greener Tomorrow came along, and that is my passion project. It's a 501c3 nonprofit arm of the work that I do, and it's really focused on making sure that women, minorities, and youth not only enter the construction industry and engineering trades, but thrive in those trades as well.
That's great. Well, congratulations on all of that. That's a lot, and you've done a great job in kind of building it up, and we're excited to get to dive in a little bit here. So, Jennifer, what are some of the biggest engineering opportunities that you see right now in the demolition and environmental services sector?
Well, there are a lot of opportunities now, especially with the infrastructure bill in place. There's a huge opportunity right now when it comes to sustainability and how we handle deconstruction, material recovery, and environmental remediation. You have to think like we're not just tearing things down anymore. We're managing climate risk, lead abatement, brownfield cleanup, and disaster recovery, all of which require a blend of engineering and regulatory understanding and innovation. And so the firms that are leaning into the resilience planning and environmental justice are going to be the ones that are leading the future of this sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of opportunity out there in these areas right now, especially like you said, with all the infrastructure development and opportunities that are out there. So, Jennifer, how does your work with LMS General Contractors kind of intersect with civil engineering practices, especially on the demolition and the remediation side?
Yeah, so our work sits right at the heart of civil engineering because demolition is the first step in many public and private infrastructure projects. But beyond just removing the structures, we are engaging with geotechnical assessments, site prep, remediation of hazardous materials, and increasingly post-disaster recovery. It requires like a level of technical knowledge and field leadership that aligns with the core civil engineering principles. And we've also worked alongside engineers and architects to make sure that the rebuild is safe and compliant and forward thinking.
So really, when you get involved with the demolition, you really have to be involved with a lot of the technical professionals because they're all kind of connected to it in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. And if you are not directly involved, it's good to have working knowledge of that so that you understand what your role is and how you contribute to helping others along the project.
That's great. And I'm just curious from like a project standpoint or project management standpoint, on your projects, is it like if you're going to be involved in the demolition, is there meetings that happen like early on in the process with all the different consultants and subcontractors? Like, what does that look like from a project management like workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. We have progress meetings and pre-construction meetings for every single project. Generally, the scope of work that LMS does, we are the contractor, so we're not generally the sub for a project unless it's a larger project. So the scope is already ours, and so we're like the first contractor because we're generally doing demolition in conjunction with abatement. So there are a string of pre-construction meetings and paperwork required before you actually step foot on the job site.
And are you typically, you could be contracted by like a public or private entity?
Correct.
Okay, great. So, what kind of inspired you to focus on workforce development in construction, and how are your initiatives helping to solve labor shortages while also creating a more inclusive and diverse industry? Because I know that you're passionate about that.
What inspired me is fatigue. I got tired of being the only woman, or often the only woman of color, or the youngest on job sites. And so I wanted to build a pipeline that made space for people who've traditionally been left out of the industry. And that's kind of where breaking barriers and my platform WynTech came in. Like, we're spotlighting women in construction, we're telling meaningful construction stories, we're building tech solutions that connect people to apprenticeship programs nationwide. And so it's not just about getting more people into the trades, and into engineering. It's about creating visibility and mentorship and long term pathways for leadership. That's really how we can contribute to making sure that we have the amount of people that we need to create the future and create a way for civil engineers moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think you're really helping to create a lot of opportunities for others in the industry, like you said. I mean, it's one thing to see that there's a lack of maybe diversity in an industry, but it's another thing to kind of roll your sleeves up and say, I want to change that, because it's a very difficult thing to do. And there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot that has to be done to try to make a change. And so, and we're going to get into some more of that stuff. But I'm curious too, from the LMS side of things, like, I think growing a company, like a contracting company, can be very difficult for a lot of reasons. So I'm just curious, like, did you have background in business? Like, how did you background in business or other leadership endeavors before this? Like, how did you get all the skill sets to be able to do what you're doing? Because it's very impressive.
Anthony, that is a great question. So, for anyone looking to start a contracting firm or any business, you will never know all the information. The only thing you need to do is start and start before you're ready. So, I had I would say I would had experience in entrepreneurship, but not contracting. The great thing about my story is that I was able to work with very supportive mentors and allies, and I worked for a small company. Working for a smaller firm or contracting firm or engineering firm, it allows you to have the access because you don't have all the layers and all of the departments. And so you're really able to jump around and learn as much as you can and understand what everyone's role is. That was pivotal. My first job in construction was as administrative assistant. So I was at the front desk learning everything.
Wow.
Yes, I had a degree in psychology, but I knew nothing about engineering. I knew nothing about construction. The possibility of being an engineer never even crossed my mind because I didn't see anyone who did that. So it was really through the advocacy of others and having that exposure that I was able to say, oh, well, wait a minute, this is something that I can readily do as well.
That's awesome. And I think that that's a great kind of testament for someone to be able to really do anything in your career, right? As long as you're willing to learn, put the energy and put the effort in, certainly make mistakes along the way, which I know I've done in building my business. But I think, like you said, the only way to do it is to start, to get going, and then just to kind of figure it out, as you move forward. I think the mentors is such a great thing as well. Like you mentioned, right? Having those mentors early on that you can learn from and seek advice from, bounce things off of, can really be very invaluable in one's career.
Absolutely. And then when we talk about mentorship, Anthony, we have to think about it in a non traditional sense as well. I know everyone wants to say, like, I need a mentor, I need a mentor. But because of the internet and social media, now you have an opportunity to have mentors that you don't even know. You can just follow people who are a few steps ahead of you or doing the things that you would like to do as well without even personally knowing them. Just kind of following the breadcrumbs of their careers as well to understand like what's out there and available for you as a leader and also a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the nice thing about the internet. And I think this was further reinforced during COVID, is that there's really isn't any geographical limits today in terms of, where companies can hire, where you can find a mentor, right? Because the ability to work remotely has become a lot easier, where you're not as limited in terms of, hey, I can't meet my mentor in person every week. Well, you don't have to, right? You can jump on a call, jump on a video. So it really does give you access to more people more easily, if you're willing to take advantage of it and keep, searching for the right people to mentor and guide you. All right, so let's talk about WynTech. You mentioned WynTech before. Talk about WynTech and the apprentice programs that you've developed and how you're really trying to focus on addressing workforce shortages, and what broader strategies you found for really engaging and retaining skilled workers in construction and engineering, which has been a challenge.
Absolutely. So for me, WynTech is building the nation's largest apprenticeship connector. And so it's an online platform that bridges job seekers with construction apprenticeships and free apprenticeships. And so what we're doing is streamlining how people can find training and how organizations can recruit talent. Beyond that, we're advocating for culture change. So, because recruiting is one thing, but retention is where most companies fall short. Inclusive work environments, leadership development, and mentorship are all keys to keeping good people in the industry. So, that is our hope with WinTech. It's just connecting the people. A lot of jobs are available, but if you don't know how to become an engineer, if you don't know how to enter the trades, then how can you get from point A to point B? And that's where WinTech comes in.
That's great. I know apprenticeship programs like way back when were popular, and they dropped off for a little while. And I think getting them back into the industry is going to be really helpful, especially with some of these real hands-on jobs, like getting onto construction sites and field work and things of that nature. I know as a civil engineer myself, just having some on-site experience in college or through internships really helped me when I got more into the design side of things, because I really knew what things looked like in the field, which is kind of invaluable, something that you can't really replicate in a textbook. So, Jennifer, I know you work with ASCE's Risk and Resilience Committee. Talk about how your work with the committee kind of influences the way that you approach demolition and disaster recovery on your actual projects.
Yeah, so I'm serving for ASCE's, the Industry Leaders Council. I served as the co chair for the Risk and Resilience, and that really completely kind of reshaped how I view risk, not just as a technical problem, but as a human one. I mean, when I approach demolition and disaster recovery, I'm not just thinking about the structure, I'm also thinking about the long term impact to the community, the workforce on the ground, and how we can build back better. Like, resilience is not like a buzzword for me. It's really a framework for making smarter, more equitable, and more sustainable decisions in every phase of the project cycle. And most importantly, when we think about risk and resilience, we have to think about every aspect that impacts a civil engineer, regardless of if they are part of, if you're doing electrical or solar or climate change, cybersecurity, all of these things that impact a civil engineer's job. We have to think about people. Who are the people that are solving these problems? And do we have that diversity of thought and experience in order to contribute to those issues and resolve them properly?
That's great. And I think that, similar to your kind of response there, I think getting involved with industry committees and groups can really be beneficial in one's career. I mean, you get to learn a lot, like you just mentioned, and you also get to connect with other people and build your network in the industry. I've gotten very positive feedback from other guests as well about just engaging with like the societies and getting involved, getting on committees, maybe getting leadership positions. Those are big pluses in terms of your ability to network and kind of grow your confidence and your relationships, really. So I think that's great.
Yeah, when it comes to career, no matter where you are in your career, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or latter part, the key to success is not just what you know, it definitely is who you know, because building a good network can help you get to where you need to be, whether directly or indirectly. It's been the most valuable resource for me to be on the board with other leaders to hear like what are they passionate about and what are their concerns, because you can really think about like, okay, well, what kind of meaningful impact can I make, and how can I work with other people who have a similar mindset and who want to be leaders and change makers across the industry.
That's great. All right. So, what final piece of advice can you give to civil engineers who might be interested in, seizing some of these emerging opportunities in demolition and environmental services, while building a long, meaningful career? What can you share with them?
Absolutely. The first thing I kind of would go back to what I just stated is about solving problems. So don't just chase the next job, chase the problems that need to be solved. Think big. Engineers who thrive in demolition and environmental are the ones who are curious, adaptable, courageous enough to lead both with their mind and their values. And the same is true for engineering. The industry is shifting, and so there is room for more humanity, innovation, and sustainability in everything that we build, or in my case, everything that we take down.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so true. I mean, when you think about career planning, if you look at your industry and you think about where the problems are, right? Where you need big solutions, right? Those are the areas where they're going to need people. They're going to need smart professionals that can come in and solve some of these kind of industry game-changing type problems. And obviously you have one here in terms of the demolition and environmental and everything going along with the infrastructure. And that's a really good way to think about your career. And also, of course, what Jennifer said in terms of like building your network and getting to know people in the industry. I mean, I think if you put those two things together, you can have a lot of success in your career. All right. Now, speaking of careers, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to wrap up by putting Jennifer on our career hot seat. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Jennifer Todd, and we're excited to kind of end off with a couple of last career questions, Jennifer, that we call our career hot seat. So the first question that I have for you is, do you have any specific rituals that you practice every day? For example, maybe it's a morning routine or a lunchtime routine, or just something that you do consistently on a daily basis that has contributed to your success?
Yes, I have a no bother me mornings. And so I like to start my workday, but I want it to be uninterrupted for like the first 2 hours. So that requires me getting up a little earlier sometimes. But that is my morning ritual of like prioritize quiet time, no social media, no calls, no meetings, and just me and intention setting so that I can get clear about what it is that I need to accomplish that day.
Okay, that's great. All right. Is there maybe a book or a author or a leadership framework or something that you've run into in your career that has kind of stuck with you and you've used it to build on, or you've come back to it to help you be successful in your career?
There are a lot of books, but one of my favorites that I've actually been recommending through the Breaking Barriers docuseries I created is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I share that book with our live events. Simon Sinek was nice enough to send me 2 cases of the book to share with the audience. And so I am forever grateful for that. But the reason being is that that book really reshaped how I lead teams and build businesses and communicate vision. And for me, it reminded me of the clarity of purpose, of what it means when people follow you and stay with you. So the reason that I tell people to read the book is because so often we are distracted by what's in our face, the shiny object syndrome or the new promotion or this job, this title. but it's important to be centered and grounded in understanding your why. Like, why do you want these things? Why do you want this position? Or what is your why? Do you ultimately care about safety? Do you care about PPE? Do you care about whatever the thing is? Because we all are passionate about something within our industry. So understanding that and always getting back to center when you kind of lose focus of, why am I doing all these things? Why am I chasing this? Am I doing this because I see other people doing it? Is this something that I actually want for my life and my career? Or is this genuine or sincere? So just getting clarity about what you truly want in your life and your career, I think is a Start with the Why is a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. Simon Sinek's great. I think it's a great message. I think a lot of people start running in their career really fast, but then they kind of just get too deep into it and then they forget what was the whole reason I was doing this again. So you kind of have to back up and start with why type of thing. So that's great. All right, Jennifer. So if you think back to some of your managers that you've worked for in the past, maybe you think of your favorite manager or managers, and you don't have to name anyone here specifically, but the idea behind this question is, what do you feel makes for great managers or great leaders, people that can really guide people and lead people? What are some of the traits and skills that you've seen with some of the leaders that you've worked for?
I think what makes a great leader is one who is self-aware. Because when a leader is self-aware and they are able to lead in an authentic way to them, that helps their team. One, it helps their team to understand who they are in working with them, but also it gives the leader the permission to lead in the way that's best for them. Like, if I understand that I'm not good with text messaging or I prefer meetings in person, I need to understand that about myself so that I won't be disappointed when these things don't happen. That is the key to great leadership from what I've seen. Just working with people is also in the docuseries, Breaking Barriers, that we have. All of the women are uniquely different. They have very different stories of how they got started into the industry, how they became engineer, how they became tradeswomen. But one thing is consistent. If you close your eyes and you watch an episode, regardless of race, sex, gender, age, every single person that works with this person, whether it is an employee, a colleague, or just an industry mate, they say the same thing about the person. That means that the person is actually being themselves. And when we're able to be ourselves at work and show up, that makes people stay. So the best leaders that I've ever had, yes, they gave me room to grow, but that's in part because they understood their role. They weren't there was no competition, or there wasn't anything of like micromanagement. They allowed me to grow even if I didn't check every box, and giving people permission to grow their careers and also encouraging them to be authentic leaders and be themselves. I think that makes for a successful recipe.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have to really have a good handle on yourself to be able to lead effectively. But we say that here, but obviously, it's not always that obvious for people that are leading. So it's a good thing to point out and for people to remember.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, I got one last question for you. Let's assume that you were to get into an elevator with a civil engineer who's up and coming in his or her career. You got about 30, 40 seconds with them to give them some career advice based on everything that you've learned. What would you share with them?
I would say, if I were talking to a civil engineer, I would say, don't just think about building the infrastructure, build your voice. Civil engineers who rise are the ones who communicate well, that stay curious, and that understand the human side of the work that they're doing. Like, your degree is going to definitely get you in the door, but it's your leadership and the emotional intelligence that will take you further than any technical skill that you have.
That's awesome. All right. So, Jennifer, definitely we will link to your docuseries for everyone here in the show notes and below the video. But where else can our listeners kind of find you? What's the best place for them to go?
My favorite platform, of course, is always LinkedIn. So, and it's Jennifer Todd on LinkedIn.
All right. Awesome.
ITS, Jennifer Todd.
We will link to that. We will link to everything that Jennifer's doing, LMS, the docuseries. She's done a lot of amazing things in the industry, and we're happy that she could spend some time with us and give a reflection. And really, I would say to Jennifer, just as a business owner myself, just congratulations. Building a business is very difficult. And you've been doing it now. You've been doing it successfully, and you're breaking a lot of barriers yourself. So thank you for coming on and sharing some of that with us here.
Absolutely, Anthony. Thank you and the team for having me on today.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jennifer. I mean, she's doing amazing things. To be able to do what she's done in the industry, like she said, there was barriers to overcome, and she did it. Building a business alone is difficult, let alone in the industry that she's doing it in. And so it's awesome to see it. I'm glad she was able to stop by and share some of her story with us. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel here. We put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineering professionals become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.